by Jim Romer. Look behind me here, the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, not only from a strong El Nino that's possibly forming, but also, of course, climate change, I definitely believe in, as well as 90% of the world's scientists, and of course, deforestation. This is affecting the soybean market. Many markets being affected not only by El Nino, but the Madden-Julian Oscillation Index, the MJO. What is that? We're going to be talking about that today. So stay with me here. We're discussing this with all markets, and also a complimentary free issue of my newsletter, catching recently the big downfall in natural gas prices, the rally in soybean prices here the last 2 weeks, and of course, multiple markets like cocoa, one of the biggest trades we've had over the last few months, making up to $3,000 to $4,000 a contract in cocoa on continued wet weather in West Africa. First of all, our soybean spider became friendly a couple of weeks ago because of our expectation of this record heat in Brazil, just to the west of the main soybean growing areas there, Mato Grosso, 114 degrees this week, hundreds all through northern Brazil. That combined with planting delays in the southern areas where it's too wet in the south and too dry in the north has been a bullish factor in soybeans. Once again, we caught this move about 2 weeks ago. But one of the things that's having a big impact on global commodities as well is something called the Madden-Julian Oscillation Index. That is a disturbance along the equator that travels around the equator every 30 to 60 days. Typically during El Nino, it's not that strong, but it's relatively strong right now because El Nino is not as strong as many people feel. We're actually in a weak El Nino situation right now. The MJO goes from west to east, and as it travels into what we call phase 8 and phase 1 to the west of Africa, that tends to create cooler weather, if you see that there in blue. And as a result, we are seeing models begin to change toward cooler weather here at the end of November and December. This is the loop of the jet stream for the next 2 weeks. Notice what happens over the Gulf of Alaska here later next week. That red blog there, right there, creates a northwest flow and colder weather. One reason why heating oil prices kind of reacted today versus crude oil prices on Monday, and natural gas prices at the bottom. But will it really be enough to create a bull market in natural gas? How long will this last? Subscribe to Weather Wealth. We had a recent big trade short natural gas. We got our clients out on Friday, as I saw this quite early, this change in the weather pattern. So when you have a strong El Nino, typically you have a warm December. But when you have the MJO in that position, and a weaker El Nino phenomenon, even though the oceans are warm, we don't see a strong El Nino currently. It's more weak to moderate. Look what happens for December. Could it happen? It's possible. We'll be updating our Weather Wealth clients here frequently with option strategies, futures, and also ETFs in natural gas and also many other markets. So once again, this MJO, the little disturbance you see there along the equator to the west of Australia, along the equator, as it moves further east, it's also affecting the cocoa market. We've been bullish cocoa for 4 or 5 months. One of our best trades continues to see aggravation of the cocoa crop in West Africa from flooding. We've seen 44-year highs. There are some of my recommendations over the last few months in cocoa, which have absolutely soared. Good news for wheat farmers from the MJO in Eastern Australia, and overall longer term, I do think we can begin to see a pretty wet spring. This is March. This is based upon the present MJO, the weak El Nino, and my Climate Predict program used by farmers and traders around the world. This is a projection next March for wet weather in the Southern Plains wheat areas. Great news for wheat farmers. Yes, it's been too hot right now. That more rain is needed, but a longer-term bull market in wheat is probably unlikely at this point if we get good moisture next spring in much of the plains wheat areas. So again, a lot to talk about right now. Of course, the big news is in Brazil, where the MJO is creating heat. And though we expect some rain there in about 10 to 15 days, it's really only on the border of the main soybean growing areas. Will it affect coffee? How high will coffee prices and soybean prices go? Will that rain because of the MJO move further north into Brazil? It's possible there could be some relief to Mato Grosso. Some of the dry northern areas are suffering from drought right now, but the MJO, and whether it moves further east or not over the next couple months, let's say it moves from there, okay, back across the Western Pacific in phase 4 and phase 5 in about maybe 30 to 40 days. That will return heat and dryness once again after some short-term rains later next week to Brazil. Wow. Boy, oh boy, a lot to watch. How do you trade soybeans? How do you trade cocoa at these prices? Is natural gas going to bottom? Again, subscribe to a 2 free-week trial period to Weather Wealth, or download one of my most recent issues of Weather Wealth, From Wine to Wheat, Global Weather Problems. Enjoy.